Our next story is about Ukraine. It got a massive shot in the arm from its biggest backers, the US. This is what reports say. Ukraine can now use American weapons to strike Russian territory. So far, Kyiv's hands were partially tied. They were getting Western weapons, but there was a limit on how they could be used. The Western weapons could not be used to strike targets inside Russia. They were only meant for defense. But it seems Joe Biden has finally bowed to pressure from his fellow NATO allies. They wanted Biden to unshackle Ukraine for a while now, and it seems he's finally given in. What will this mean for Ukraine? How far into Russia can they strike, and how will Moscow respond to this escalation? Our next report has the details.
Escalation, well, Russia has escalated by invading another country, and Russia has escalated just last weeks by opening a new front where they are hitting Ukraine from inside Russia. And of course, to assume that Ukraine should not hit back is in no way reasonable, because Ukraine must be able to defend their territory, also of course by hitting the artillery, the missiles which are launched against them.
That was Jens Stoltenberg, the Secretary General of NATO. He's echoing what some NATO member states have been saying for a while, that Ukraine should be allowed to hit military installations inside Russian territory. It started with the UK in early May. The British Foreign Secretary, David Cameron, said Ukraine had the right to use British weapons to conduct strikes inside Russia. This Tuesday, two other major NATO members gave their approval. French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said that Ukraine should be allowed to defend itself, even if that means hitting targets inside Russia. NATO members have also been building pressure on the bloc's biggest and most lethal member, the US. And it seems to have worked, because yesterday we saw reports like this. The Biden administration has quietly given Ukraine permission to strike inside Russia. The words secretly and quietly show that Biden may not have wanted Russia to find out so soon. But Washington has only partially untied Ukraine's hands. Ukraine can now use American weapons on Russian soil, but only near Kharkiv. Kharkiv is Ukraine's second largest city. It's barely 30 kilometers away from the Russian border, and Moscow has been pummeling Ukrainian forces around Kharkiv for weeks. Kyiv has found it impossible to defend against this, because Russia has been launching these attacks from inside its own territory. This posed a big challenge for Ukraine, since it had to wait until the missiles crossed the border before shooting them down. And it is why Kharkiv is in danger of capitulation. Russia is reportedly amassing its troops near Kharkiv, but because they are inside Russian territory, so far Ukraine could not do anything about them, at least not with US-supplied weapons. Now, with Biden's covert thumbs up, Kyiv can attack Russian troops and bases, using American howitzers, HIMARS, Grads, and everything else. American anti-aircraft systems like the Patriot can now be fired into Russian airspace. This is a massive escalation. Today, the Kremlin spokesperson said, and I quote, "We know that attempts are already being made to launch attacks on Russian territory using American-made weapons. This is enough for us, and it more than eloquently demonstrates the degree of involvement of the United States in this conflict." Here's what Russia's defense minister said.
Russia's military grouping is forcing the enemy out of their positions. Advances are taking place in all tactical directions. As a result of active actions in different areas of the Kharkiv region, the enemy has retreated 8-9 kilometers.
So, Russia will push on with its offensive. But will the changes in US policy change equations on the battlefield?
South Africa's May 29th elections.
It was a start of change in the country.
We are on the verge of history.
I
am standing here at the forefront of change, where voices echo the call for action.
The nation grapples with an unemployment crisis. As South Africans prepare to cast their votes, the question looms, will the winds of change usher in a new era, or will the legacy of the past maintain its grip on the future?